A top 5 battle in Columbus. Number 2 Ohio State hosts number 5 Notre Dame. Kickoff is set for 7:30 on ABC. Now these two teams have met just 4 times in the last 80 years. The Buckeyes, they won them all during that span. Now here to give us more insight is Tom Loy from Irish Illustrated and Dave Biddle from Bucknuts.com. Guys, Tyler Buckner will take over the starting job for the Fighting Irish, and he's going up against an Ohio State defense that hopes to put last year in the rear view. So Tom, let's start with you. How does Notre Dame take advantage of that? And then Dave, how do the Buckeyes make sure that they don't?
Yeah, all eyes are on Tyler Buckner, sophomore quarterback at Notre Dame, and it's going to be pretty exciting, man. I know all the fans are excited. This is a kid that was dynamic, explosive, electric in high school, put up insane numbers, video game numbers, if you will, at high school in San Diego. So he had some spot duty last year. Obviously, Jack Cohn was the guy, but this is a guy that everybody's fired up about. He's one of the smartest guys in the room. He's going to be ready. The moment's not too big for him. So I know a lot of people are talking about the atmosphere and what he's going to be able to do there, but there's enough playmakers around him, and Michael Mayer, Logan Diggs, Chris Tyree, Lorenzo Styles, Braden Lenzy. So this guy's the moment's not going to be too big for this guy, so everybody's fired up about him, and I know Tyler Buckner's more than ready for this moment. He's going to do some great things Saturday night.
Yeah, Jim Knowles, Ohio State's defensive coordinator, I asked him about Tyler Buckner and not having much film to study, and he said, yeah, we're scouring the earth trying to find film on him, and they're impressed. As Tom said, this is a young man that's very explosive. A lot of rushing yards last year in spot duty, more rushing yards than passing. I think Ohio State is going to try and make him throw the ball down the field, and maybe he'll be able to do that. But I think they're not going to let him come out there and pick him apart with QB runs and things like that. But easier said than done. But I think Ohio State's going to try and not sell out to stop the quarterback run. They're going to mix things up. But I think they're going to try and make this young quarterback in his first career start try and throw the football down the field.
Now, as for the Buckeye offense, not a lot of question marks there, but the only question is, how is Notre Dame going to stop them, Tom?
Yeah, that's the big question mark. I mean, they got their work cut out for them. The Ohio State wide receivers, the passing game is ridiculous. C.J. Stroud, obviously, we all know about him. But Brandon Joseph at safety was a massive pickup for Notre Dame from Northwestern. He's the replacement for Kyle Hamilton. He's a guy being talked about as a potential first-round pick, so all eyes are on him. And then a key is going to be, can DJ Brown, Houston Griffith step up alongside him? Can Ramon Henderson emerge as that other safety spot? So they're going to be watching them. Now at the cornerback spot, you got Cam Hart, a little banged up. We'll see what happens, but I think he's one of the more underrated guys nationally. You have Clarence Lewis, Tariq Bracy, 2 freshmen I'm actually keeping an eye on, Jaden Mickey and Benjamin Morrison. 2 guys have already made noise in the fall camp, so keep an eye on them. But let's be honest, it all relies on the Notre Dame pass rush, Isaiah Foskey. If those guys can get to the quarterback, it makes that job for the secondary that much easier.
Yeah, I find it very interesting because, Notre Dame's defensive line gets a lot of discussion, and rightfully so. They're very, very good. But this secondary, I think, might be a little underrated when you look at maybe some of the people that put together those lists as far as, ranking different units. I mean, they return, if you include Brandon Joseph, which you really should, as a returning starter, they really return all 4 starters. But this Ohio State offense is electric. They were the number 1 total offense and scoring offense in the country last year. And they expect to be better this year because there were things they didn't do well last year, like short yardage running. But even with losing 2 first-round wide receivers, they don't expect to skip a beat there. Jackson Smith and Jigba, of course, returns. 2 guys that are really going to step up at wide receiver are sophomores Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka, and I think in that order. But both those guys are going to be really, really good as those number 2 and number 3 wide receivers. Another guy that's going to help out is Julian Fleming. But with C.J. Stroud back as the Heisman favorite, this offense will be electric. They're really going to put to test a really good Notre Dame defense. We'll see. I think Notre Dame's going to have to force multiple turnovers because Ohio State's going to get their share of yards and points in this game.
Marcus Freeman opens up his first season as Notre Dame's head coach at a place he knows all too well. How big a win would this be for the former Buckeye, Tom? And Dave, what do you expect this atmosphere to look like come Saturday?
Yeah, this would be a massive, massive win for Marcus Freeman. I mean, if they can go on the road, 17.5 point underdogs, I mean, that would be ridiculous. When you're looking at that from that perspective. Now, inside the Goog at Notre Dame, they're not looking at themselves as an underdog. They think, they have this mentality. They can compete with anybody. They can go toe-to-toe with anybody, whether it's Ohio State, Alabama, anybody. So they're going to go in there expecting to win. They've been selling this ND vision of making Notre Dame cool and fun. They're, promoting family and brotherhood, but really what it's about is getting over that hump and competing for national championships. And, this team is loaded with veterans. They're not going to be afraid of the moment. So if you can go into Columbus and get a massive win, it's only going to pay off even more for a team that's already done great things on the recruiting trail. Now they need to show that they can actually compete for a national championship.
They will be walking into a hostile environment. And it's interesting. Ohio Stadium, for a lot of games, doesn't have a hostile environment. This will be a direct 180 to that. This will be an extremely hostile environment. I know what Michael Mayer said, that a lot of times it's not very loud there. They don't really have much of a home field advantage. In his defense, Ohio State's lost a lot of non-conference games at home, even at night, basically beginning with the Texas game in 2005, going on and on. USC is on that list. Oregon from last year, Oklahoma, Virginia Tech, the year they won the national championship. They lost to a 6-6 Virginia Tech team at home. But I'm telling you, this Saturday night, it's going to be rocking at the Horseshoe. It's going to be rocking. Even if you're watching on TV, you might need to turn your volume down at times, because this place, there's going to be 2 times this year where this place is going to be off the chain. It's the first game of the regular season, and then the last game of the regular season when Michigan comes here for the first time in 4 years. So I hear what he's saying. Ohio State has not played well at home against non-conference opponents, and at times the atmosphere is not great at the Horseshoe. This Saturday is going to be rocking.
Awesome, guys. Already excited for this game, and make sure you can read their work all season long and follow along for coverage of this very game. I have a feeling you two will be there. Bring some earplugs and take their coverage on Irish Illustrated and Bucknuts.com.